Survivor News.
Survivor News. Survivor News. Survivor News.
Survivor News. Survivor News.
Survivor News. Survivor News. Survivor News. Survivor News. Survivor News. Survivor News.
And we are back this week with your Survivor News. We giving you the OG Survivor News. So if you are an OG Posse member, then you know. Let's formally welcome back to the podcast the baby boy that is Jack Atkins. We know him from the Circle Season 2 in Malay. We know him from The Floor is Lava. We also know him with the new haircut. I said he looked 10 last week, but that was because the alien invasion. But listen, let's welcome back to the podcast, baby boy Jack Atkins.
Hey, Brice, how's it going? As you
am
can tell, my voice is a little gone, but I got a little cough drop in right now, and I'm still ready to rock.
the aliens really came.
The
for
aliens got
Jack.
me.
I am asleep. If you guys are wondering where Wendeezy is, it's giving spring break. No, Wendeezy is out and about. And so listen, in essence of Survivor Week, Thanksgiving, the holidays, you know, the baby boy going on a cruise, taking his barb. So listen, Jack said, put me in. So Jack and I are giving you the Survivor News this week. And you know, before we get into that, you know, with your baby boy, you know, we got to talk. Brice and Win presents, okay, the District 43, December 7th, okay, the District, pull on up, and then listen, the finale. We are coming to LA December 14th. The tickets are available. Brice and Win presents. Click the link in my bio, Windows bio, or the Brice and Win present bio, or just if you want, just click the link in Jack bio and see what he doing. Okay, because the baby boy is active. But listen, Jack, I just want to tell y'all, you know, the finale is really shaping up to be something special, something never seen before. And Wendeezy and I just got off the phone today. When I tell you Brice and Win present the finale 43 LA, it's going to be different. It's going to be something like we've never seen before. And we just got off the phone. We confirmed.
There's some new intel I don't even know yet.
There is some new intel that you don't even know. So I'm just saying, if you're in LA or you want to be in LA and you've been enjoying this season, I think, you know, you should pull on up. But listen, great episode.
Yep.
I feel like a lot of which we were talking about last episode, particularly me, you know how you last week was like, I said James and Ryan.
Yeah.
A lot of what? Now, wait a minute. I am getting a weird phone call. What in the world?
Oh. What's up, gentlemen?
First of all,
Hold on,
your
let me
hair.
jump outside.
Your hair. It is giving. Did you touch an electrical outlet and you got electrocuted?
Listen here, okay? Don't do that, Brice. It looks good. It's called a braid out.
It's called a mess.
It's called I took my cornrows out. My cornrows were looking rather flicked today, and I took them out, and now I got hang time.
It's giving. You should have kept them in.
It's giving. What's your hang time looking like?
It's giving delicious, malicious. But we appreciate you reporting live.
Reporting live from Johnny Fairplay.
Oh! Johnny, give me that jacket. Johnny, I want that jacket. Johnny Fairplay, I want that jacket. Also,
I mean, if I'm going to rock a Macho Man jacket, that means I'm going to appear on the Brice podcast.
On the Brice podcast.
Also,
I mean, you ain't there. It ain't your podcast.
I'm appearing.
You ain't there.
Damn.
And listen, also, if you aren't following Johnny Fairplay on Instagram, congratulations on the blue check, Johnny. We see you out here.
He's had that for a while now.
Well, I mean, it still happened.
That's old news.
But we
You
love
like
to
the
see it.
t-shirt?
Oh, Johnny out here giving zaddy vibes.
Yeah, I got a War Dog Sucks Eggs t-shirt.
Let's see who else.
I only had so many letters I could spend on my T-shirt. So I got
Wait,
eggs.
oh, Wendell, what does Johnny have? What does Johnny have on his feet? Johnny normally has
Oh!
a 6-foot
Some
game.
heat.
What?
Ooh.
Oh,
Some Jordan 1s.
I got ones.
okay,
Metallic
Johnny.
orange and white.
Okay, well, if y'all don't know, Johnny Fairplay, his fashions be top tier.
Oh!
Look at it.
Oh, I know that better not be the. You know what, War Dog? You know what?
88, and he said he was still doing my Aegon conquering the kingdoms. I looked at page 88. The third king's already in the chair. Lying, motherfucker.
I cannot believe that you are
Nerd.
and you didn't even tell me, War Dog.
Nerd.
Whoa.
Hey, what's up, cool guy? Hey, cool guys get to hang out too.
People that call themselves cool guys.
So you didn't tell me. So you called me today. You text me and you ain't telling me you was gonna be in New York.
I'm saying though, when did New York become Philadelphia? Like, are they different states? And plus, like honestly, I didn't want to see him today after last night's Nets getting whipped by Philly without the three best
We didn't
players.
have anybody.
Yeah, I didn't want him to see y'all, man. This is some bullshit right now.
Isn't Brice a Charlotte guy?
Charlotte Hornets all day. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you want to go to Charlotte with me?
Okay.
Who's
Yes.
on top
Hey,
right?
That's Jack Atkins.
Is that Captain
that's
Jack?
Jack
What
Atkins.
up?
I
What's
can barely
up?
see it. Listen, Captain Jack, what's going on?
I'm chilling. I'm doing well. How's the event?
Yo, we knew Noelle's going down, right? I mean, that story was too good, right?
Yeah, it was good. It was a good episode for her though, up until the very end.
Up into the end. Also, real quick, Purple Pants Posse. Okay, we see the mustache. We see the
Oh, yeah, I
mustache.
shaped up the line a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Just
we
shake
gotta
it
keep
up.
it clean, right?
We gotta keep
We
it
home
clean.
for the holiday. This is my first Thanksgiving in New York since 2008.
Wow.
Wow.
Doing a thing. And I'm moving back to New York within the next 2 years.
You're lying.
I'm not joking. I'm serious.
War Dog, we gonna have sleepovers all the time.
I told wait, I'm about to sleep over not unless you start reading. Bitch, start reading.
I told you this over the. Ah!
Hey,
Oh, that's
Victoria.
upgrade.
Oh, Jack had
Huge,
that.
huge upgrade right there.
Huge upgrade.
Why aren't you guys here?
Cause I gotta pack and I have to. There's a
Yes,
lot going
read.
on.
Pack for what?
I'm,
Oh, tomorrow's Thanksgiving. I forgot.
yes. Love you,
Oh, yeah.
Victoria.
Did we get Hoboken?
Yes.
So
Sorry,
okay,
guys.
Purple
I'm sorry
Pants
for
Posse, It's
hijacking.
all right.
we got all the
Wendell,
cameos.
We're just having such a
I
good
can't
time.
believe the War Dog is there.
Oh my gosh. Can we say hi to someone?
Who is this? Is this
Oh,
He can't see you. He can't see y'all.
is that my zaddy? Is that the
So that's
original
right. Sorry, Ozzy. How you doing?
Ozzy?
You're saying hi to Brice's podcast. Sorry.
It's so funny that y'all can actually see Wendell fanning out. This is like the real Wendell. He's like, oh my God, look at this. It's the War Dog. It's Victoria, Johnny Fair. Like he's literally running around, but we love it. Keep doing it. Okay?
I feel like I'm a correspondent right now, and you're really hurting my heart right now.
it's quite all
As
right.
if tonight's vote out didn't hurt my heart enough.
It was a lot going on. But Wendell, did you hear what happened to Jack?
Did I get what?
Did you hear what happened to Jack?
what happened to
Jack?
me?
Jack. First of all,
Yes.
I'm
But listen-
sorry that it happened to you, but your hair looks really good.
It
Mine
does,
doesn't.
but
Yeah.
do
What
you want to
happened?
hear? Do you want to hear what Jack just told us? Can
Did
I
he
tell
just
him,
get
Jack?
a job?
Can I tell him,
No.
Jack?
Yeah, I don't know what you even say.
It starts with 3 letters. It's bye.
Damn. Wow.
Why you gonna do me like that?
But all right, Wendell, we appreciate it. We got to go.
I love
ooh,
y'all.
How was the event?
Bitch, page 88 is Vegas the Cruel. Oh, come on. He got still coming to the kingdoms. Lying motherfucker.
Hang up on us.
Liar.
Hang up on us.
I love the word dog. All right, okay. When DZ is out. Okay, we got a little
Wow.
special for the podcast. Spoiler alert, War Dog is coming in hot, spoiling things. But listen, we got a lot to unpack, Jack. So let's get to the rundown.
I'm a little frazzled after all that. I'm like, I'm in shock.
Yeah. It's it's like the Brice and Win present event. You just never know
Yeah.
who's going to show
We
up.
got it's our live correspondent in the field. We let him moderate one time, and he just goes out in the field.
he's all thinking he's a newscaster now.
Yeah, but no, shout out to him. I didn't realize there was something going on in New York. I low key might have popped out, but
Yeah,
I think I'll be there this weekend if y'all want to do something. But,
you should. I'll make sure I connect you with the Word Dog.
oh hell yeah! All right, should we dive into this week's episode?
Let's dive in.
And I mean, for those at home, usually we record, the day after. Right now, we're recording 30 minutes after the episode, so it's hot off the press. So this is some Survivor know-it-alls type of area. Would you be Rob or Steven, right?
I probably would. I mean, you could call me Sesternine. Sesternine Zaya.
Okay, I'll be Steven Fish Atkins. But yeah, should we dive in? Okay, let's dive in. So we get back to camp after the last tribal council, the double tribal, where James and Ryan went home. And, I think there was a general last tribal, I think, was one of the first tribals where the things really started to get kicked off this season, where moves were being made. Noelle was making moves. Sami roped in Carla last minute. So I would say there's a general sort of aura of mistrust going on where people are starting to say, like, hey, you did something that's a little suspicious. You did something that's a little suspicious. And I think that really sets the theme for this episode, where now, like we said, I think people are finally starting to want to make some moves, whereas the last few weeks it's sort of been smooth sailing.
Right.
Where was your head at with the strategy going into this episode, given everything that happens when they came back to camp?
So I got really concerned when they came back to camp, and at Tribal last week, we saw Jesse's face was shocked. And we know that Jesse wanted to work with James, but clearly Jesse was not that sad about it. And we clearly see a face of shocked of Jesse. And at first I thought it was like, darn, they got my guy. But in my opinion, after this episode, it was like they did my dirty work. Like, I didn't have to get rid of James. And I think another thing that really Jesse illuminated was that he said that now that the knowledge is power is out, he knows where all of the other advantages are. And he gave us this nugget that we've had to wait 7 episodes, is that he suspects that Carla has the idol. And we've never heard this talk before. And he was like, the word around camp, which we all suspected, was that, and you even said the thing that you didn't like about the idols is that if everyone is getting beads, then once they get together, they can talk. And so, I was like, well, maybe the way Carla did it, they wouldn't know. But Jesse says that, he got intel that Carla was asking for beads. And of course, in this game, knowledge is power. And so that made me a little nervous because I'm like, oh my God, they're illuminating Carla's idol. Could she be an issue? And I was like, oh, it's a lot going into it. And also, I feel like last episode, I was talking to you about how we don't really get to see a lot of Cassidy. And I really feel like that Cassidy is a hardcore player. We're just not seeing it. And I feel like in this episode, and especially right after that tribal, and they came back, we really get to see her thought process. She's happy that she got Ryan out. He was taking shots at her. And we kind of just see a more confident Cassidy. So I'm just like, okay, I'm here for it all.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seems like we're at the point where really everyone's playing the game, pretty smartly. Like, even throughout the episode, we see them a lot of talk about later on. Gable says everyone's an assassin and they got silencers on their guns. The moves are more precise and well thought out. And so even for a Cassidy or a Gabler, who we haven't seen a lot of strategy from so far, it seems like they're starting to really adjust to the tempo of the game. So it really lays out potential for a lot of big moves down the line of the season. I'm going to grab some water right now, but should we hop into the reward challenge?
Yeah, which when I was watching this reward challenge, I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to talk to Jack, because when we found out that this is a reward challenge, and when Jeff said that he knew that they would be going to the Oasis, and it would be, I don't know if they found out before or after, but regardless, that they would like potentially this is like the family visit. We would hear from the families. I immediately was like, okay, and we know whoever wins will get to bring possibly like 1 or 2 people with them.
Mhm.
And my take on it was I would absolutely not want to win this challenge. Like I just felt like whoever wins this challenge or whoever goes on this challenge will more than likely go home. Like I
Yeah.
just feel like it too much at stake. And especially like after a double elimination like that, it's better to spend the time with the troops. And I would have actively sought to not win this challenge. Would you agree? You are our resident strategist.
Yeah, it is tough where especially when there's a little more at stake with the letters from home and stuff like that, and you have to be the one to pick. I always feel like when you're an individual winner and you need to pick, 2 to 3 people from your tribe, it can really reveal your cards as to who you want to work with. That might not even always be the logic, but if someone leaves me out of their picks, I'm kind of going to be like, where do I stand with them? I'm clearly not a top priority. So yeah, I think there's always a case to throwing it and then ideally getting picked for it anyways.
Do you feel like a good strategy is if you do have a core alliance, like say you have 3 people and you guys are, you made it to the merge, you've made it past 1 or 2 tribals. Do you think a good like plan and action is to actually have a conversation like this? Like, hey, if we get a reward, if one of us wins a reward where we get to go off somewhere, like we don't need to pick each other. Like, I just want to give y'all that okay, because I think, again, it's best that you take the people that you don't know the best and leave people that you trust back at camp. Do you think that that is actually a conversation people should be having?
Yeah, I think that's a very reasonable conversation. Like, if you're actually like this with someone, them choosing you on the reward shouldn't really be a deal breaker in terms of, as long as it's something you've agreed on. But if you don't discuss that, then there might be red flags. So I do think you're right. If you have someone you're a dynamic duo with, it would be a good strategy for both of you to say, hey, we don't necessarily have to pick each other. Now, given that I agree that's a good strategy, I could also see how it could be tough when you're so hungry, you want to hear from home in that moment to say like, oh no, it's cool, like bring other people and I'll just go sit back at camp and be hungry. Like that's a little tougher. It's easy to say like, oh, on paper this is the right move, but when there's actual real repercussions, it might be a little more difficult.
Yeah. But also I feel like in the game, you've got to make sacrifices. And I feel like
Mhm.
if you're trying to get to the end, I just definitely think this is something that I would say I'm absolutely okay with. Like, because one, I ain't gonna win the challenge. I'm gonna tell you right now, because I'm gonna throw it. And I'm just gonna tell whoever, like, if y'all get it, don't pick me and don't feel the need to pick me. Like, pick people that we're not closest with. Just because I just feel like in these type of challenges, like, yeah, it just puts a huge target on your back. And even people that you are cool with, it also illuminates you to them. So I just,
Mhm.
when I heard that it was going to be this, I was like, ooh.
It actually reminds me of watching, past family challenges with my dad and discussing the same thing. And he was like, if you were on Survivor Jack and I was out there for the family reward, I would tell you, do not win it. Like he's like, I don't want to go because it's bad for your game. So I
Right.
think you and Ben have a very similar strategy, Bryce.
Baby boy Ben know what's popping.
Yeah. I also want to apologize to the posse for my annoying cough right now. I'm gonna try to start muting myself when I cough because it's probably annoying to deal with. But this challenge, shout out to Noelle. I mean, so for those who don't remember, you had to spin on this thing, cross a rope bridge, cross a balance beam, and then land a beanbag on a super high platform. And we see Noelle struggling with the balance beam for a good portion of the challenge. She's the last one to get to the final stage of the beanbags, and reasonably so. I mean, on one leg, it is extremely difficult to cross a balance beam. But ultimately, she catches up to everybody else and lands it on what looks to be like her second or third try in an absolutely astonishing and incredible comeback.
Yeah. It's funny because this season with Noelle, having Noelle on the season, it always just makes me heighten my sense of awareness. And like at these different challenges, I'm always wondering, like, is this an advantage or a disadvantage for Noelle? And again, I wonder if like production takes this into consideration for like different challenges that, like, some challenges that she just won't be able to do. And honestly, like when I saw this challenge, I was like, I don't know how Noelle will do with this because, of her leg. And again, like I'm just like watching her on the spin thing and then, dizzy and crossing it. And I was just thinking, like, I'm just curious to know how she will do because again, having Noelle on the season, it just kind of heightens my awareness just to different things. And also it's just like just as an adult, like, just seeing handicap accessible places and different things. I work part-time at a hotel and I'm always just so sensitive. Like, sometimes when people get requesting, and like they need a roll-in shower or something, I always just try to ensure that whenever I see a reservation like that, I always like block it into a room because it's like, you just don't know someone else's like battles or struggles. And just the fact that at times people like, they just don't think about things like that. And just, I think I love having Noelle on this show because it just, again, humanizes us in a way. Not that we're like, oh, we feel bad for Noelle because she needs no pity, like she's a strong woman. But I'm just saying, like, sometimes if you don't know someone or don't have that personal experience, it's not personal to you. And
Yeah.
I love the fact that one, she a fighter, she don't need nobody handout, and she's here, but just her presence alone makes you just so much more aware. And I just hope for anybody watching the episode, just maybe you take a second look about different things. And, you might be at the grocery store, just open the door, just like, just
Yeah.
promoting, just being a nice person, not saying that, oh, you need to help people. But sometimes like we just are so caught up in our own realm of things that we don't think about the next person. And again, just this challenge itself. And when she just couldn't get it, and I was just like, oh, damn, Noelle, like, this is a hard one for her. And then for her to come back like that, I was like, and honestly, if this is not a testament to Survivor, that it's like, Jeff always says, don't give up, keep it coming. And this is like example of when you push yourself, you just never know how far you can go. So now mind you, I be a crybaby a little bit. And again, when she won this, I definitely was like sitting on the edge of my bed, definitely shedding a tear, just being how proud I am of Noelle, just for her perseverance and for her strength. I think that it's like so admirable and we could all learn a lot from Noelle.
Yeah. I mean, I thought obviously it was so amazing, but it brings me back to a conversation we had a week or two ago where it was so blatantly amazing that all of a sudden, I think all the players are like, we cannot necessarily go to the end with someone who is doing such incredible things. And I know you were bringing that point up a lot. And I think that is absolutely true because we see the rest of the episode, people start to say like, well, we love Noelle, but we can't sit at the end with her. Like, and that's just sort of the double-edged sword of this sort of win for her. And it's just, I don't know. Like,
right. And it sucks that it's a reward win and not an immunity win because now it's just like, again, I was telling y'all before, I feel like Noelle's path will be harder because she shines a little bit brighter. And if her way to the end is that she won't have to win her way to the end. And here it is, her actually proving to them that, like, not only can I come back from behind, I can nail it on my second shot. And that's scary.
Yeah. And I will say, I'm glad that it seems like most of the challenges that have been more difficult for her have been like the rewards more so than the immunities, it seems like. But I agree with you. Like the cost of her winning this challenge from like a perception standpoint might not be worth the actual reward itself. But again, when you're in the heat of the moment, you make such an amazing comeback, like that might not necessarily be on your mind.
Right.
But speaking of the reward, Noelle selects Sami, Jesse, and Owen, and they go to the Survivor Sanctuary where they get a bunch of food. It It looks like they get some wine, and they get some letters from home that clearly hit them pretty hard, especially Jesse and Owen. But what did you make out of this whole reward? Like, how do you feel about it?
I love the reward. You know, I normally do the family visit with Rob, and so I always just get very emotional. Just hearing Owen read the letters from his girlfriend. I think his girlfriend's name is Sami. Also, him just saying like, I don't think that I've ever. I don't know why this got me emotional. Like him saying like, I don't think I've ever seen my dad write "I love you." That was just like wow. And because Chad, I don't think I ever seen my dad write "I love you" either. But anyway, that's not story for the day. But even like Jesse saying, like, you know, me and my wife, she's my best friend. We used to write letters, but that was when I was in juvenile detention. Like, you know, just crazy. And hearing Sammy's dad say, like, you know, I'm giving up certain things for you. Noelle's mom talking about how she checks the weather. Like, I just love the family visit. It's the best thing. But Noelle's mom might be checking the weather to see what it's like, but let's just be clear. Sami changes up more than the weather and the seasons combined because Sami be a blizzard one day, then a heat wave, then a thunderstorm, then the sun out, then it's snowing, then it's hailing. Like Sami is like, and mind you, y'all know I love my baby boy Sami, but for him to get in there and be like, yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
This is it. You guys are it. Like, and I'm just like, and I'm sure he means, I feel like Sami is like me. He's very in the moment, like, you know, but there are a lot of moments in the day. And in every moment, Sami a little different. Sami is like, I'm locking it in. And I'm just like, baby boy, you coming on too strong because it's like, they have seen your style of play, especially Owen. And it just was like, oh, I'm thinking like, and again, like I said last week, I feel like Sami's downfall is going to be how he's playing both sides. And clearly, like, and even in that moment, they were able to see it.
Mm-hmm. And I remember we talked about for a while, Sami had been doing such a good job of playing both sides that it didn't really seem like anybody was onto him. But clearly now everybody's sort of aware of the fact that he's a bit of a wild card. And even still, it doesn't seem like there's been become a big target on his back necessarily, but it does seem like he's sort of lost some, I guess, strategic respect in the sense that everyone's like, oh, he'll just go with the wind. Even though I feel like he has more of an intentional plan in his movement, but when you're trying to work with everybody, it does eventually come across as sort of just like not what like I guess not spineless, but like as in you're easy to mold.
To mold. And another thing I thought of was like, I was like, maybe Sami's game style could earn him a seat at the end. In the sense of like, you're switching up so much. You're kind of like, you know, you backstabbed Janine, like you orchestrated this James vote. I'm thinking like, and again, from talking with Survivor with you so much, it really opens my mind to like, I would feel like if I ever played again, I would be such a more dynamic player. And I think that I would actually think like, maybe Sami is somebody I should lock it in with, because if I'm sitting at the end with him, I'm not actually sure how many votes he's going to get because he has switched up so much on so many people.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Like once everybody knows that you're willing to make like any move, I think it takes a lot of the weight of like your actual moves away and you lose a lot of credit. So I don't know, I think Sami's a really good player in terms of his maneuvering, but it doesn't really seem like he has anyone that like really wants to work with him, and
Right.
that can be tough for his final pitch. You know, like what is the final pitch at that point? Like,
yeah. And another thing that I felt like I was robbed of this reward, and I'm curious to listen to Noelle's exit interviews tomorrow. We ain't seen nobody looking for an idol or an advantage. I just feel like normally these are the places that like people be turning over the plates and stuff. But I'm sure that probably, like, I mean, we got people like Jesse out there. We have people like Owen out there. I am
Yeah.
sure they probably looked, but there was nothing to find. But I would have loved if the editors could have just showed us a little something.
True. Yeah, it is. It is like they never really show it unless someone finds it, but it's always fun to see them like looking in their napkin or like looking under the pasta. Yeah, true. And there's so many advantages like already in the game though. It's tough. But yeah, back at camp we see the other four, Cody, Carla, Cassidy, and Gabler. I'm not gonna say they were salty that they weren't there, but they clearly weren't the most excited. But even there, they're sort of having similar conversations that are happening at the reward, where they're starting to try to get their numbers in line a little bit, start thinking about what the plays could be. I know there's a little bit of conversation about Noelle, a little conversation about Sami. So it just seems like, yeah, it's sort of same as earlier in the episode. It seems like at this point in the season, there's kind of a consistent, steady strategy saying like, okay, where are people at? Like who do people want to go for? And just being very like particular in the conversations that people are having.
Yeah, I also thought it was funny that it was like more the talk of like, yeah, we've got to start targeting the threats. And I'm thinking to myself, well, yeah, because y'all got out everybody, like, you know, everybody now is just playing. So of course you're going to have to target the threat because everybody's a threat. I think another thing that really kind of illuminated for me was when Carla and Cassidy went to Gabler and they're like, you know, telling them their plan about Noelle. And I'm like, when did Gabe? It's just so crazy how you see how people are in the beginning and they might be like aloof and they might be like out the, you know, laying down, trying to get their rest. But I think we need to give a little bit more credit to Gabler's style of play. And again, I feel like it could be strategic that he has been somewhat like, you know, the Gabler has been up and he's now at the point where he is a number and a viable number that people really need. And he is really becoming like the sway vote. So it was just so interesting seeing Carla and Cassidy go to him and like tell him their plan. And he's like, I'm with them. But we see that he is definitely a double agent, but definitely more stealth-like than a Sami.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, we knocked Gabler. I knocked Gabler for a while. And I think the fact, like early in the season, he came across as like not a very strong player, not a jury threat, kind of a chaotic player. And so I think that caused pretty much everyone in the game to write him off and say, okay, I can sit at the end with a Gabler. And when you're with someone who everybody wants to sit at the end with, everyone's going to come to you and try to loop you in and work with you. So now Gabler's at a position where he might have the most information in the game in terms of everyone coming to him and talking to him. And he's been a lot more stealth mode. Like he hasn't blown up any plans. He's been like pretty good with the way he's been maneuvering. So, you know, if at some point Gabler can start using the fact that everyone's, you know, writing him off as an underdog or a non-factor and really use all that information to make the tides turn his way, then I think we got to give Gabler's game a little more credit than we have been. So
yeah,
it is cool to see at this point in the season, even like the underdog players like Gabler and Cassidy start to make some plays that can build their resume to a competitive level.
Absolutely. And I think that there is something to be said to like waiting a little bit to like make that big move. And again, if any time is better, now is the time for the Gabler to come on out. Like I'm like, okay, Gabe, we see you.
Yeah, exactly. Next we head into the immunity challenge. And I gotta say, I like the immunity challenge this season. Something we talk about every week. It's not so much the same old like endurance balancing challenges that we've gotten every episode in the past few seasons. It's all different stuff. And even in the teaser for next week, we see one of my favorite immunity challenges. So I'm just excited at the rate that they're doing these immunity challenges and the diversity that we have in those. But this one is sort of a house of cards building, balancing act where you got a lever in one hand and you're trying to balance this plank and then move cards from one side to the other to make a tower that's sufficiently high, probably, 7 feet, 6 feet. And that, I mean, early on they hit us with the montage of just tiles falling and falling and falling and falling. But eventually Cassidy starts to, start doing pretty solid with it. We see Carla, Sami,
Owen.
Owen all making pretty good progress. But it's Cassidy who's out in front pretty much the whole time, but she starts to get towards the top and adopts a bit of a safer strategy that allows other people to start to catch up. But ultimately, Cassidy's strategy works out and she reaches the top and takes home the win. What do you think of this challenge?
I love this challenge, and it's funny, like you said, I love the adaptations of this challenge because normally on the challenges, it's like you have the rope and you got to walk towards it and drop it down. I also just love the angle of like this and getting the right movement. And so yeah, I loved everything about this challenge. I feel like last week you guys were complaining about the challenges in the sense of like, because this somewhat was an endurance because you kind of had to like endure the fact that your dominoes are falling and getting over it. But I like the fact that it was a slow and steady wins the race and that like, it was over time. And I just think, again, we've been talking about Cassidy and in this episode, we know that when Noelle took Jesse, Sami, and Owen, Noelle and Carla were the two names on the block. And again, we've seen a little bit more fire from Cassidy, and very important for her to win this because if she did not win this, it was more likely looking like it could have been her going home because Carla has an idol. And if any chance to use the idol, I definitely think now would have been the time to use it.
Yeah, and they had that potential vote plan to split the votes on Cassidy and Carla. And like you said, obviously Carla has the idol, so she could have been in trouble. So definitely a very timely win for her. And it's also been interesting to see that through the first 5 individual immunities, there's been a different winner every single time. And so that kind of keeps things fresh and unpredictable.
Yeah. And I think that also speaks to the level of which the challenges are, because sometimes I feel like when it's a heavy puzzle challenge or heavy like endurance swimming, then you tend to kind of sort of have like a Tyson on, the Challenge USA where you have somebody dominant. But I love the fact of them switching these different things up because it creates different players winning. And when different players winning, like the way the way the domino falls is falling different ways every chance.
Exactly.
What I will say though is after Cassidy wins and now it's like the game is on to see what happens. I feel like the editors are illuminating. If ever we see a winner's edit or ever we see a golden nugget or like, a halo, like, oh, it is definitely Jesse Lopez. This was, in my opinion, a breakout episode for him in the way in which that they were able to edit it and the way that he was able to tell the story of, if this is what I want to happen, this is what I need to happen. And it's just so interesting to go along the journey with him. And even when he gets like a roadblock, the U-turn or the thing that he makes. And this was just like, again, it just really goes to show you the level of gameplay in which people are playing. And I read the Twitters and I read the Reddit sometimes. And I know people have been saying like, oh, the season isn't that exciting. It's not that, like, but I think that issue is because people are playing a strategic game. People are like, know when to hold them, know when to show them. Like they are keeping their cards close to their chest. And I think that to some, it's like, oh, it's not a lot of action. But I like this because at some point it's going to have to boil over. And so, I think that for me, this was truly an illuminating episode for the baby boy Jesse.
Yeah, and I think this is what you were referring. But after the immunity challenge, we get back to camp and we see some different options thrown out. But ultimately, we see Jesse decide he wants to get out Noelle, and we see his checklist for a successful blindside followed with like different freeze frame moments, which I don't think is something we've ever seen before. And it's basically him coming up with his cover stories, finding a fall guy who's Sami, and then putting the plan in motion and getting that backup option. I believe is what it is with enlisting Gabler. Something we haven't. That's sort of a sequence we haven't seen in Survivor before, which I thought was interesting. It definitely gave me almost like a undercover cops
like trying to figure out or where in the world is Carmen Sandiego, but you might be a little too young for that, Jack. Another thing that I feel like Cody and Jesse did was they illuminated the fact that one, Noelle can pull out a win when she needs one, and not only pull out a win, she can come from behind. They also talked about how Noelle is good with getting a number one, and when they took Dwight out, she replaced him. She replaced him with Owen. And again, I think that that's a great position for Owen to be able to kind of sort of like, Owen has been feeling like he's been on the outs for a while. And I'm sure after tonight, he probably baby boy might feel that way again. But I like Owen's resilience in the sense that he is able to he might be a curmudgeon and upset with things, but like I just like the fact that like he was able to kind of link with Noelle and make an impactful relationship that is ultimately like kind of like helping him get along in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's just a lot of dynamics going on, and I do think the way that they framed Noelle's sort of scrappiness in the game too was really smart, and I think really helped their case of making her not only a threat to sit next to at the end for all the reasons we've seen, but also just a strategic threat and someone who's always going to come back stronger if you let her survive. Now, before we get to Tribal Council, I mean, it does seem like, given that we see the full scope of Jesse's plan, it does seem like the writing is sort of on the wall with Destiny Child's second album, but but we do see Gabler go to Carla and say like, hey, Jesse and Cody, like they gave me the plan, like I'm on board, but we got to look out for them a little bit. And Carla seemed to agree.
And again, could they be building us a Jesse up to let us fall down? Because again, I definitely feel like this plan was well thought out. A lot of moving parts, a lot of things for him to like tell people, but also it's revealing how smart and how untrustworthy in the game of Survivor that you can be. And clearly Cody is your number one, but for the Gabler to be the one to decode that and know that. But also, I think for me, what impressed me even more, because obviously they're leaving us with a cliffhanger, like, oh, what's the Gabler going to do? But he didn't act on it. And that's like, oh, okay. Gabler is keeping a mental note of what's going on, and Gabler will for sure be a problem.
Yeah. I think this is the reason they included that is really just, they're going to go with the flow now, let Jesse make his moves. But I think not too long from now, even next episode, there might be some retaliation towards Jesse. But same time, Jesse has two idols, so that could make things really dicey and really interesting. What I will say, in my brief, Reddit browsing post episode, I saw a lot of comparisons between Jesse and Omar from last season, where they're sort of both of the people in the Power Alliance that are the best at, subtly lining up the dominoes and lining up the targets and then letting them fall and getting them out of the game. But people are worried that someone like a Jesse could go out around the time Omar did, for the same reason that once all the dominoes have been knocked over and there's no one else to get, you're like, oh, well, who was responsible for all of that? It was Jesse. So, yeah. So clearly, I think there's going to be a target on Jesse's back, but it'll be interesting to see what he can do with two idols, because now we're down to the final 7. 2 idols at this point could easily get you to the 4. So
yeah.
But ultimately we're at Tribal, and you gotta be honest, Tribals this season have been, I think the season's been picking up, and the Tribals have sort of steady been pretty boring. Like there's just a lot of metaphors and a lot of vague answers, which as a player, I can respect the vague answers because you don't want to show your cards. But as a viewer, I wish there was a little bit more spiciness. You know, it just feels like Jeff's always just like, well, how do you think the game's going? And people are just like, oh, well, the game's going all right, but you never know. And it's just,
and then he's like, and Noelle, what do you take of that? Like, you know, but I also feel like Gabler was low-key dropping like little bombs when Gabler was doing his like, oh no, they're snipers with precision and they gonna take people out. They taking you. Like, and mind you, like he's like, they take you out. No.
yeah.
Just like, who are you pointing to, Gabler? Oh no, nobody. Jesse. No, no. I didn't point to anybody, Jack. I mean, Jeff, I didn't point to nobody. Jesse. Nobody. I point to nobody. Not just the way my hands went.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, Gabler.
Yeah. But ultimately, so it's a 5-2-1 vote. Cassidy, Carla, Cody, Jesse, and Gabler vote for Noelle. Interesting, Noelle votes for Sami, which surprised me a little bit. And then Sami and Owen vote for Carla, which also surprises me because, you know, last week Sami was the one roping Carla in at the last second. So in the sense, like that almost kind of proves people's point about Sami, and that last week he was going away from the plan to bring in Carla, and this week he's out of the plan. He votes for Carla. Like it doesn't does not make a ton of sense. Yeah, it does not make a ton of sense. I think it just seems like Sami, and I mean Sami and Owen, unfortunately, have just been out of the loop in a lot of votes, and Sami's done a better job of working his way into votes, but not even being at the center of them necessarily. But it's just another week where Sami and Owen are just sort of out of the loop, unfortunately.
So I am curious to see, will Owen go back and be like, because now there's no James, like, you know, will he be like, you left me out, like, you know, and will he give that energy to Jesse? I'm curious.
I doubt it, just because I think he was more like, I think if he said that, you could be like, well, you were close with Noelle, so like, why would we tell you that? It's like, and it seems like he already had a plan of his own, so it's more of a blindside. Whereas the week he went to Jesse, it was like he had immunity. He was like, guys, I have immunity. Like, I just want to be a part of the vote. And it was a little bit more blatant. But I'm sure Owen's going to be pretty frustrated because last week was probably like the first time he was in on a move, and now he's sort of back to the bottom. So
right. Another thing that I thought was like really not cold-hearted, but like this man is playing the game. It's like, you know, when he talks about the reward challenge and how he's like so grateful to Noelle and like, you know, like a real love session. And I'm just like, oh, all the time this man is orchestrating. Like I was just like, ooh, Jesse.
Yeah, he's been very cutthroat, and I don't think they've highlighted it as much necessarily as they can, but it's like, it's the same thing. He voted out Dwight when Dwight had trusted him with his idol. Like any other season, I feel like they're going to be like massive backstab. But
right.
They kind of left that out a little bit.
But I also feel like I like the style in which Jesse is doing it. Like you can be cutthroat and be a very like aggressive player, but not be an aggressive player, if that makes sense. And I like that. And again, I think that is partly the reason why I see so many of the comments like, oh, that season is lackluster. But I'm like, if you're actually looking at the game moves and the relationship in which the people have, this is a very cutthroat season. It's just, you know, they not giving it to you in the style in which that like you're used to. But if you're a fan of the game and a fan of trial and error, I don't know if that actually fits in it, but like, you know, if you're a fan of like seeing how seeing how the cake bake, then Baker's man, patty cake.
Yeah, I think it's everyone's playing at a pretty high level, and so that might make things less crazy and therefore less exciting. But I do think this week and last week have been sort of some of the first episodes of the season where I've really been like paying close attention, seeing the moves, and really there's a lot of things I'm seeing from a lot of different players that I like as a strategist. And so when everyone's playing a solid game, it might not be the most, you know, razzle dazzle, but you can still, as a fan, watch and be like, wow, there's some impressive things going on here.
couldn't agree more with you. I was extremely sad after the votes came in to know that our girl Noelle, they took her out. But like I said early on, she will go out in a blind side because like that she truly was a threat and a hell of a player. And again,
Yeah.
when you are, and again, I also felt like if I was Noelle and we got to tribal, I'd be like, Jeff, if you don't shut the like, Noelle, what an impressive comeback from the end. What do you say? Like, and again, don't get me wrong. I felt like Noelle's answer was 100% great, like, and uplifting. But I also feel
Yeah,
like
don't put a spotlight on her.
right. She could have been like, I mean, Jeff, anybody could have done it. Like, I would have like, but again, Jeff, like, illuminating her once more, which puts a huge target on her back, and which is ultimately the reason why she went home, because anyone that Noelle sits next to, they would be handing her $1 million.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. She really left her mark on the game, and yeah, it's a shame she went out like this, but yeah, she played a solid game.
Absolutely. I am pretty sure that if there ever is a returnee season, you could I wouldn't be surprised to see my girl Noelle back on out there.
Mm. Oh, one thing I do want to hark back to that I forgot to mention. I know you love the think about the Jeff and the TJ outfits.
Oh, yes.
When we got to the reward challenge, Carla said, Jeff, loving the black. And Jeff was like, oh, really? Like,
Jeff said, you talking to me?
Yeah.
And Jeff was like, you
he
know
started
what?
curling his hair.
Right. Jeff is
you.
like, they put the blue shirt out for me this morning.
But I was feeling
this black. It just, made me slim. I got the black Survivor hat to mess it up with. I said I'm gonna unbutton 3 buttons. And but it's just the way Jeff put his hand on his hip.
He was
it's
so
her.
happy.
It was like
he's like, my wife hasn't told me that in years.
You see me? Oh, thank you. I miss people saying good morning, Mr. Jeff. And I'm not getting that this season. But
he's like, ever since Jonathan left last season, no one's been showing me no damn respect.
No one shows me no love, but I appreciate that.
Carla.
Yeah.
I
was cracking up. Of course, I had to pull that clip. When I saw that photo, I said, let me grab this for old boy Jeffrey. But again, episode 10, the season is definitely churning up. And if you guys think that the season has been lackluster, I feel like
it's about to get a little more illustrious.
It's about to go down. Like, yeah, we ain't playing with that. And I'm glad that we were able to break down the Survivor news, given Thanksgiving is tomorrow.
Yep.
But listen, we said before we stuff the turkey, we'll stuff the posse's ear with some
Survivor news.
What are you doing for the holiday, baby boy?
Yeah, I'm back home in Connecticut with some family, and then hopefully, gonna bounce to different family members and everything, and some friends of the family. It should be a good time. See some people I haven't seen in a while, and then hopefully gonna be in New York this weekend. See some friends, and then back to school for my last week of classes. So I'm excited about that, but I hope I want to hear what you're doing, but I hope the posse has an excellent Thanksgiving as well. But Brice, what's your plan?
I'm headed to Barb's, and Barb is going to do her regular Thanksgiving. So
what's Barb's best Thanksgiving item?
Her candy yams.
Ooh, okay.
They're like, they're delicious. What's Christine's best?
I don't think I don't know if she's cooking, but she's bringing desserts, and she can make a mean dessert.
What's your favorite Christine dessert?
Probably chocolate cake.
Yeah,
it's good.
Do you ever like when she used to be mixing the cake before she put in the oven? Would she ever let you?
She give me like the little
spoon, the things like that used to be the best part. I love that. That was definitely the best part. Well, all right, Jack, I hope you have a happy holiday. We appreciate the Purple Pants Posse, and we will be back next week giving you your Survivor news. And thanks again. And Brice and Wynn presents. We out here. So we hope to see you soon in DC, and hope to see you in the finale, because I'm telling you, you ain't gonna want to miss it. And this has been your Survivor news.
Survivor News.
Survivor News. Survivor News. Survivor News.